Yes, sir.
Good morning. Imad Musa from Al-Jazeera television. My question is, I still don't understand, I mean, I've listened closely to what everybody said, but I don't understand why a system of mutual funds that allows you, based on the principles of Abrahamic faith, which basically means no usury, no pornography, no investment in alcohol, tobacco, tobacco and gambling, and shares in the risks and the profit with people, based on all Abrahamic faiths, would be so attacked, where socially responsible investing has been around in America for 90 years. And people are free, if they want to, invest in banks, invest in pornography, invest in gambling. They're not saying don't do that. They're just saying here's an alternative, just like the Mormons have mutual funds, just like the Jesuits have mutual funds, if you want to invest in these mutual funds. And from what I understand from the leaders of the industry, whether at Harvard or elsewhere, who come from all backgrounds, by the way, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, everything, is that, and same with the people that work in these mutual funds, is that there's now $1 trillion in it between here and across the Atlantic in Britain. So why would you want to take that away as an option, where you're free to do whatever you want? You can invest in those mutual funds and you can drop them if you like, you don't have to invest in anything. And that's the first question. Why would you be against it, especially at this time when there's $1 trillion at stake, which is more than national deficit? Number two, second question is, what I understand from the folks at the Treasury Department is that the Bush administration actually asked for this seminar 2 years ago. The seeds were planted 2 years ago, as Citibank and as the Dow Jones Islamic Index, London, etc., were growing, and they fared better than the regular Dow Jones Index, and they wanted to learn more. So why would you be against government employees trying to learn more about this thing and the free flow of information?
Thank you for your question. Let me, again, take a bite at it and invite comments from my colleagues. The reasons that Shariah-Finance is not the innocuous and, in fact, desirable industry that you've described, I believe, are fourfold. One, at its core, it is about promoting Sharia. Everyone who talks about it as you have, and as they will be talking about it at Treasury in the next few hours, as though it has nothing to do with Sharia, is misleading the public, certainly misleading investors, many of whom post 9/11, I believe, at least in this country, would not want to have anything to do with an industry or a financial program that is promoting the violent overthrow of the United States government. Secondly, Sharia advisors are integral to this industry. That is another distinction between other socially responsible investings, even ones that have various denominations associated with them. Sharia advisors are, as a practical matter, without exception, proponents of Sharia, the seditious program that is promoting the violent overthrow of the United States government and Constitution. Some of them are very explicit that Sharia-Finance is financial jihad. Some have called it jihad with our money. That is an indication that this is a problematic activity, not simply another innocuous financial option. Third, Sharia advisors have at their discretion the ability to move proceeds of these financial investments to various activities, charities, according to their lights. Whether it's tithing, something called zakat, or whether it is something known as purification. We're seeing funds migrate at their sole discretion to organizations that are not the Red Cross or the United Way. Typically, they have at least secondary and troubling connections to organizations that are involved in terror, promoting violent jihad, a la Sharia. And finally, the thing that I think makes this totally different, I don't know about 2 years ago, but back in 2002, according to some Treasury Department talking points, they had another of these conferences. The difference between today and 2002, or even 2 years ago and today, is that today the Treasury Department owns a substantial portion of the U.S. financial sector. So if the Treasury Department decides this is all of the wonderful things that you say it is, and that Harvard University's rather compromised spokespeople are going to say it is. They're going to find, I'm afraid, it inevitably the case that they will want to ensure that this program is adopted by the banks, by the financial institutions that the Treasury Department controls. And that is very worrying if, as I say, this is about Sharia at its core. Anybody else like to make a comment on that? Robert, please.
I think Frank superbly answered the first part of your question. The second question that you had was, why wouldn't we want the Treasury Department officials to learn about this and the public at large to learn about this? Actually, as was clear, I think, from Frank's opening remarks, that's exactly what we want, is for people to learn about this. And what we are objecting to, one of the things that we're objecting to about the Treasury Department presentation today, is that I think that it's a very safe bet, one of the safest bets available to anyone at any time, that they will not be discussing the fact that Islamic scholars, not us, but Islamic scholars, mainstream authoritative Islamic scholars, teach that Sharia is a comprehensive unity, such that Shariah-Finance cannot be separated out from the rest of it, and that the rest of it is expansionist, supremacist, and oppressive as compared to the canons of American society and law. And that the fact that these things will not be mentioned, that the treatment of women will not be mentioned, that the treatment of non-Muslims, the institutionalized discrimination against these groups that is encoded in all the formulations, all the authoritative formulations of Islamic jurisprudence by all the major Sunni schools of jurisprudence, by the Shiites as well, that they all teach in common that women are essentially chattel, that non-Muslims are to be denied equality of rights under the law in numerous ways, and that these things are just as much Sharia as Shariah-Finance, but these things will not be mentioned. Well, we want them to be mentioned. We want it to be opened up. If the Treasury Department is going to have a learning effort about Sharia, then they should tell the whole truth about Sharia.
Yeah, it's really the totality of what Sharia is. We're talking about Sharia compliance finance. We're still talking, as been said before, one small aspect of Sharia. All these other things are sort of hidden in the background to some extent. I think, and I agree, that Treasury has an obligation to really understand the total nature. We have, what we see here, I think, is what I would call the nibbling effect. Imposition of one thing which seems pretty good, pretty harmless, maybe, which might lead to another. It's like imposing a sales tax on a steak. You start out with 1.5% interest. That seems okay, then it goes up to 1, 2, 3, and it goes on its way up. And regarding Sharia, we see aspects of it in cases like in Harvard, where one of these individuals across the street is talking today. At Harvard, Muslims have insisted and been granted a Sharia-compliant minor facet of it, of having the gym open only for women during certain hours. It's a separation out, separation of the sexes. That has been successful at Harvard. I think there was an attempt to have the call for prayer in the afternoon. I'm not sure how that worked out. It's another small one. I think we saw in Michigan or in Minnesota, cab drivers refusing to pick up somebody if they had a sightseeing dog or they're carrying liquor or something. It's another aspect of Sharia. I think we also saw the same thing elsewhere in many other ways. And again, that nibbling effect, even checkout people at supermarkets couldn't handle any product well wrapped if it was a poor product. That's another aspect of Sharia. The point is that it's a huge, monstrous code that is lived, that the Muslims live in, that the Islamists live in the Muslim world. There's a kind of a code which is totally incompatible with our freedoms, with this nation, and what we believe in. And the attempt to nibble its way into us, I think, spells disaster for the free world. And I don't think that's something we really want.
Anybody else?